What's going on, everybody? Bobby Fine, Eric Sheets-Haber. We're going to be talking about today's MLB slates, as well as going to touch a little bit on last night. I had a really good night, almost an unbelievable night, but it was still a great night. Look, when you play like $600 and you make 25,000, you can't be too upset. So it was pretty cool. It was a little frustrating at the end, the bump down in the lottery. It was a little frustrating to have position players. Actually, do you want me to show me my screen real quick?
No, I'm going to show first because this is the point that I want to make. Okay. So this is a post that you put up on the Discord. And first of all, shout out to Rody who won his second seat to the live final. He held rather nicely. So we talk about this a lot about like what types of people play it at TrueDFS, what types of guys that we look for and all this stuff. And what we always talk about is, and this is an extreme example of it, but what we always talk about is we like to think that we can, put good EV lineups together and good portfolios without maxing out everything,
right.
to not have to play 150 in the 150 and to not have to play, 88 entries in the 888, not have to play, everything, and when you see results like this is what makes it all worth it, And listen, this is, obviously Bobby's been playing a little lighter, so this is probably a little less than he might have otherwise. But nonetheless, he does very rarely, if ever, play more than one in the ball four. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Very and to be able to place you have 11 entries in the freaking bat flip.
And yeah, that was third, 16th, which was almost first and second.
That's ridiculous. I mean, listen, in fair, listen, you were very heavy on one particular spot, and that's so you basically had 11 combinations, right?
No, I actually played 3 different stacks. That's the weird part.
Okay.
It was Yankees, Dodgers, and Arizona, and I was splitting it up.
Right.
But those were the ones, you know what I mean?
So obviously, right down. I didn't even realize that that you hit the first in that power alley down there. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
but so really, really nice job. Now, again, I can't say that you should be able to replicate, this type of result playing 10 entries or so, but there are plenty of ways to skin a cat, and this is what we like to see. And obviously, whenever Bobby wins, it's good for everybody. So, great job.
I appreciate it, man. No, thanks. It was a lot of fun to have it going again. I was sitting with my son and I was saying, I think I've got a chance here because I have literally all the time in the world remaining. And of course, the Dodgers just went completely nuts. And you know what? It was great. I did feel like I was really hoping for anything from Pages there, or I didn't realize Paxton was one of the guys behind me, so he got the win at the end, which knocked me down an extra 10K. But hey, you can't complain. It feels great to be back in a good spot. It felt like it'd been a while, and I feel like the process has been good lately. It just hasn't quite gotten there, and I feel good about what's happening. So I'm ready to get after it today, and I'm ready to get after it going forward.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. So we're gonna go here, and let's see. I'm starting with the early slate, right?
Yeah, we'll start with the early one, right?
Why don't you start off? I think we can go game by game really quick because it's only 4 games, right?
No, absolutely. Okay.
Here we go.
What's up? All right, so the first game I have is Colorado, Minnesota, and right off the bat, as you probably would guess, Pablo Lopez. Well, you're going to probably tell right from the beginning who the top pitchers on the slate are going to be, just because you have the 2 teams that we always have top pitchers against. So
right.
Pablo Lopez is one of them at 8,500. This is just way too cheap. The other thing I would say is I'm pretty sure that it's so funny they had. I'm pretty sure Gomber, can he actually be starting?
Why wouldn't he be?
I thought he pitched last night. No,
he didn't pitch last night, did he?
He didn't come in relief somehow. Okay, maybe not.
I don't think so. Yeah,
I thought it said Gomber up on the board there, but okay, no problem. When I was watching the game, so Lopez is him and Michael King. Let's just call it what it is. Like, these are the 2 best plays. They have the best matchups, and anything aside from these 2, you're getting different. So that's where I'm going to start, and then let's look at the stacks here. Minnesota I have ranked second as far as value goes, so that seems to make some sense. And then that's pretty much it. So Minnesota I like. I don't like Colorado. So you want to get chalky right off the bat, we'll play Lopez and We'll get to King in a minute and the Twins for now.
Well, I would. It's obviously it's an early game, but there's some serious weather concerns here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's a little concerning for me. Just okay, Roth, call it what it is. He's like I always say, I think he's the best around for DFS for the weather, and he's got it as orange yellow. He says his guess would be a late start and play, but not ruling out a postpone. So that's a little concerning. As of right now, I'm waiting to know what to do with that. If they delay, I'm much more likely to play it. If they don't delay and try to play, I'm a little bit concerned.
And talk through for those who don't know what that means. I mean, well, why is that?
Because in this case, from what I can tell, it looks like in this case the weather gets. They would have to delay because the weather should be getting better later in the day. And looking at the actual radar here, it doesn't look that bad later in the day. But if they try to play it first, they're definitely going to hit some storms at least in like the third or fourth inning. It looks like right now. So it seems like a logical spot to delay and play. But we'll get that news beforehand. Probably we might not still be on air. So let us know if you've heard anything. I'll keep an eye out on the right side of my screen for the tweets about it. But as of right now, this game I have is a very not sure what to do. And if I was going to play it, if it's going to play, I do think Lopez is the best option on the mound, even though he's been struggling lately. I do like the Minnesota side, but they're going to be really popular, so I probably wouldn't full stack them because they're going to be like 20% plus, I think. Assuming the weather doesn't get in people's minds. So that's what I've got. And look, it's a small slate. No issue if you're not playing Lopez, to take at least a bat against him. I don't think I would be trying to get bats against my pitcher on a 4-gamer, but if you ended up with one cheap one here and there, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I just would rather not do it.
I was actually looking for a more beginner answer. What I was going to say is that when you're talking about possible weather issues, especially with the chalk pitchers, it comes in two forms, right? One is you think that the delay can come later, or one that it can be delayed early. So the idea is that if you're just going to have to wait for the game to start, it's not a big deal because the pitcher will just wait to get loose, just keep waiting or whatever. But if the fear is that they're going to play like couple of innings, then delay, and then be able to resume, that scenario is not bad for hitters, because if you think it's going to resume, the hitters will be fine. But if the pitcher gets out there, pitches 2 innings, then the game gets delayed for like 2 hours, you might not get back in, because pitchers need to get loose again. So that's kind of what I wanted. So again, for those of you that don't, that haven't really played a while, that's something to consider about what type of weather issues that might be. Okay, you want to move on to so basically everything else except for Lopez and King, presumably the game goes, is going to be contrarian. So we could really just have some fun talking about all this stuff. I got T. Myers for Milwaukee and Chris Bassett for Toronto, and I have Bassett as tied with a bunch of guys for the first, for the pivot. So, and there's Logan Webb coming up soon. There's Valdez coming up soon. So I have Bassett on par with both of them. So obviously if the Lopez game is threatening, and you think this will be scratched or whatever, I think Bassett goes right up to the, kind of the top of the list for that second pitcher alongside of Webb and Valdez. I'll get to in a minute. I don't know much. I mean, I see that Tobias Myers did have 30 fantasy points in his last start.
Yeah, he did.
An amazing outing. Like one hit against doesn't matter who it's against. Whatever. One hit through 8 innings and 100 pitches. Me, that's probably something I'm inclined to fade. So if anything, I'd probably be inclined to play Toronto. But the thing is that Toronto right now is looking to be the huge chalk. So again, what do you want to do? Lopez King with Toronto? Sure. It's really
I think you definitely want to find something.
Sure. But I got Milwaukee just a little bit just below these guys, below Toronto, below Minnesota, but they are going to be lower owned. So I don't know, maybe take a shot with Milwaukee. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I understand the thoughts of Milwaukee. I actually have Bassett ahead of King.
Oh, right. Well, that's something.
Well, because I mean, just because I know I don't think he's not necessarily going to average out more or whatever. I do think he's got the actual. I think he's got enough upside to contend with these guys. I think he might have He's likely to throw the most pitches on the slate. And Milwaukee strikes out the sixth most against righties in baseball. They haven't faced Bassett because they're, again, it's an out of division thing. So I always love when teams don't see a pitcher. So I've sort of talked myself into Bassett as being my whoever I play with, whether I play him with Lopez or King is probably going to be my staple. And again, I'm not getting that different by doing it, but at least I'm getting a little bit lower ownership on my pitcher. So that's what I'm doing. And as far as hitting goes, I'm just using pieces. I don't think I'm actually going to end up stacking. I'm only playing a couple lineups, but I think I'm going to end up with just pieces here. And that's, again, it's too chalky everywhere else. So I haven't found a stack that I like that is not chalky, but I like the Toronto pieces obviously better than Milwaukee because I like Bassett.
Only playing a couple lineups, Bobby. What makes you think you compete with like all these multi-enterers with like only 10 lineups?
Are you proud of me? Usually I'm like the guy the next day just firing and everything.
Yeah, that's right. I am. I'm very proud of you. That's right.
Hashtag growing up, man. I also have to save something for the U.S. Open. I mean, come on.
That's right. I'm going to need it.
By the way, we'll be doing a show on that soon.
All right. So I think that this next game is another one where you have two pitchers that are reasonably priced that are, just not quite as good as the others. But I think that, again, I think either of these guys make sense. Valdez obviously makes a little more sense because of his matchup. So, yeah, I got no problem if I get to this. Again, depending on how many lineups you play. Valdez instead of Lopez, Valdez instead of King. Play Bassett and Valdez together or something like that. That certainly seems to make some sense. And Logan Webb, he definitely, listen, it's a little scarier to play guys against Houston than against San Francisco. So maybe he'll be a little lower owned as a result of that. So I have no problem with that either. So again, just because it's a short slate, and because it's so obvious those other two spots, I'm not going to mind to get either of these two guys. As far as hitting goes, I don't know. I'll probably avoid the hitting. I mean, avoiding. It's 4 freaking games. I'm probably have to play some of it, but they're definitely not a priority either one of them.
Yeah, I hear you. The natural thing is, again, it's a good pitching slate. Like all these guys are completely legitimate, solid plays. I think you could easily argue either of these guys being the top pitcher potentially. Things breaking their way, especially. I actually think Webb is I think they're pretty similar. I really think they're both solid options. I really would like to take at least a bat or two because there's gonna be no ownership here. Maybe a one-off. I mean, Austin Slater probably only gets the at-bats well, maybe not. He's been playing a little bit more against righties. But he's 2,600. He's batting leadoff probably, and he's not supposed to be more than 12% owned. That sounds like a play that I could throw in there. I like Matt Chapman. I've always liked Matt Chapman against lefties. San Francisco, unfortunately, didn't get the memo that their stadium plays much better during the day because we'll take the coldest winter I ever spent as a summer in San Francisco saying because it is 60 degrees and it's not going to be like a beautiful day up there. But again, the stadium does tend to play better during the day for whatever that's worth, even when the weather's still bad or cold. So yeah, mostly it would be one-offs for me in this game. Like I think Chapman, Slater, Ramos would be my 3 favorites. Maybe on the other side, Alvarez. But yeah, it's hard to make this a priority. But at the same time, that is the one spot you're going to get really low ownership on. So also, we may not have lineups by the time that things lock. So you might even get lower ownership than you expect. Okay, now we've got Oakland and San Diego.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in MME, I think you're supposed to play Oakland. Just because Michael King is one of the top 2 pitchers on the slate, and he's not that great. It's the best I can describe it. I mean, it's a good spot again. In a lot of ways, and there's not too many options, so he's going to get ownership as a result. But I don't know. I don't know what's so great about Michael King in general. So, and the point is that he's definitely one of the top plays on the slate. But just to get leverage, I wouldn't mind trying it.
Yeah. I mean, look, Michael King wasn't supposed to be the guy he's been this year. Like, I mean, look, there's been some hype. There's been some talk about him before and everything, and I'm surprised at how good he's actually been. but I agree with you. If you're playing just from, you got to play the game theory angle playing baseball, and I do think that means you'd want to play the A's at least some. Langoliers, again, more pieces. Langoliers would be my favorite piece. Probably followed by, God, I don't know. I mean, Soderstrom just seems like he keeps hitting home runs, and he's 2,100, so I guess you could consider that one. But I get, Seth Brown, depending on where he hits. It really depends on where they're hitting. Zach Geloff, if they ever move him up in the order, if he ever starts hitting. And then you get the Hogan Harris thing. Now, I don't think I want to play Hogan Harris. There's actually too many good pitchers here, but it's probably worth just noting, like, just getting different with your build like that. It's not the worst idea in the world. I just don't think San Diego's the right team to do it against. They're good against lefties. They also hit better during the day. So I would put San Diego as my favorite full stack that isn't going to be crazy high owned. And I like the idea of getting some Oakland pieces. So I'm probably going to end up with like Lopez, Bassett if I get the clear on the weather, and then maybe some Lopez Valdez or Lopez Webb. And I'm going to play, at least some pieces from this Oakland side. And I think I'm going to end up with like a 3-3-2 today with like Toronto, Oakland, and San Diego is what I'm looking at right now. So that's sort of what I'm looking at for most of my builds right now.
Yeah, so I'm going to shuffle around a little bit, see the San Francisco, is the San Francisco lineup? That's the one that's not out yet.
None of them are.
Oh, all right.
San Francisco, Oakland, San Diego, and Houston.
Yeah, so let me.
And Rhodey, Mr. Rhodey just pops in and says he just got here, needs all of the picks. Get out of here, buddy. What are you talking about? Why don't you give us the picks? And also, I'm tired of battling it out with you. We were totally on each other's side all night long, and then we had to anti-sweat everything at the end. We were going against each other with everybody who was up.
Yeah, I had to try to figure out whether to root for that 2K guy or not in that last at bat.
Stefanik, yeah.
I think it was. I was hoping. You know what? I was afraid it was going to be the worst. I was afraid you were going to get middled. I was afraid that he was going to hit like a double and screw Rhodey, but not have you get there.
Right. The real one is, for me, it ended with the Pajes in the seventh when he's facing the guy throwing 50 miles an hour. Literally, it was hilarious to watch the infielder. I was telling my son, I was like, he's going to come in and they're going to bring the position players soon and at some point because they've run out of their bullpen and it's only the first game of the series. Anyway, it was just funny.
By the way, nobody asked me. I'd like to let everybody know that I did come in 54th in the freaking in the big one on DraftKings last night. So there.
Oh, let's go! I actually figured that you cashed, but I forgot to ask you because
I did end up playing like a whole bunch of Dodgers and stuff. So nice. It's not the right one. That was. But yeah, so we have everybody won, which is always good. Okay, so do you want to look at the main?
Yeah. You know what else was fun about last night, by the way? There was kind of it was a very high scoring slate. Like it wasn't like you could get by with like a 160 or 150.
And listen, I will tell you something else. I am not the social media guy,
but
I don't know if you posted yet about your stuff from last night.
Yeah, I did a little one.
There's so many good things you could do. Like you could say, boy, if I could only afford to play 20 lineups, I might have won, or something like that. I just can't think of having played like 11 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that screenshot.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. I'm just taking a quick look, see if we got anything else in the weather. Nothing right now. All right, okay, so we're gonna get into tonight's.
Yeah, that's something we obviously have to.
Keep an eye out for that. Nothing seems to be a weather thing in the later side of things, so should be good to go.
Oh my God, I'm looking at who the top two projected pitchers are. This is not going to be fun this slate.
That's interesting. I know. Give us some of the guys from the early slate, and we might feel a little better.
Oh, so an announcement, by the way. I put this on the Discord. I'm going to go live tonight at 10:30.
Awesome. Maybe I'll join you for a little bit. I'm going to try.
Yeah. So there's a lot kind of going at the same time, which is I was going to do it 11, but then I totally forgot that it was the NBA Finals tonight. You forget that when they play once every 9 days, right? So that slate is 8:30, and so after like 2 hours, we're going to be into the fourth quarter. So I'm going to do that. We'll talk about that. We'll see what's going on in the MLB late slate, and then I'll do my live lineup build for the U.S. Open. So I think that should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. All right, so we go to which one are we starting with? Is it Philly, Boston?
Philly, Boston. So neither of the two pitchers in this game rate to be my top two, but I don't know. Let me just see here. Pivetta, it's a tough spot, but Pivetta, he can get it going. But I don't know if I want to be messing with Philly right now. So I'm not seeing him as top ranked. Sanchez, I actually have Sanchez in like just below the top tier. I have two guys that kind of stand out, and then a whole bunch of other guys. And Sanchez is right in the mix. I have him reasonably owned, like 15 to 20%. So I think that's I guess it's all right as far as a pivot off the top ones. And then as far as the hitting goes, value-wise, Boston is kind of marginally okay. And as far as just raw points, let me see if get Philly up there. Yeah, Philly maybe a little bit. So maybe a little Philly, maybe a little Boston, maybe a little Sanchez. I don't think I can get to Pivetta, though.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting to Pivetta, and I definitely have some interest in Philly. And I like Sanchez here. I'm not really entirely sure why the projections don't necessarily like him more. I guess they're not like hating him. But okay, so like you have the Red Sox strike out the second most against lefties. Actually, they strike out the highest percentage versus lefties of any team in baseball. This seems like a spot where we should be playing Sanchez. So I actually do have Sanchez as a priority. And I think that even whether you're playing Philly or not, looking at the lefties, again, we know Pivetta has a history with trouble against lefties. Unfortunately, he pitches in Boston. You want the righties usually there because of the Green Monster. But you get the low-owned David Dahl and the expensive but 2 home runs last night, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper. There's some good lefties in there. So I definitely like Sanchez and I like Philly. And again, I have no fault if anybody wants to play Pivetta. I just personally am not going to try and mess with Philly as much as I possibly can. If I do ever mess with Philly, I'm going to mess with the lefty because they are also a high strikeout team against lefties. And Pivetta is obviously a righty who gives up a lot of power to lefties historically. Cleveland, Cincinnati.
Tough ballpark. And that's going to offset what could be good pitching here. Like I think it's kind of ends up being kind of a wash. Like I like both these guys like a little bit. I like Beebe a little bit. I like Lodolo a little bit. Just not quite as much as the top guys. But listen, they're getting owned less than the top guys. So I think they're going to be in play. As far as the hitting goes, I mean, let's see. How tough a ballpark is this? Let me just see now that I mentioned it. Relative to their projections. Yeah, I'm not really getting to the hitting here, even though you probably should always get some exposure to the hitting in this spot, but in this ballpark. But right now, I'm not getting to any of the hitting, and I do have some interest in the pitching.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page here. I like the pitchers, both of them. I feel like let me just take a quick look at Cleveland, something with their situation. Yeah, that's the one place you can get them too is against lefties. I think Lodolo. That maybe I'm going to do a lefty thing today. I usually don't pick on Cleveland. Also, like as you mentioned, a great hitter's park, but I like Lodolo. I really think that there's a lot of upside with him, and I think he's just a really really good pitcher. And I will put Lodolo just below Sanchez because he's a little more expensive, but I think that he is the one I would side with a little bit more here. Although I have no issues if you want to play Beebe. And it is 84 degrees, so if you wanted to take a contrarian stack and play either side, I'm not going to argue with it. I just don't personally have that as rating out the best myself at the moment. All right, Miami and the Mets.
So we're here on June 12th, 2024, and I have David Peterson as one of the top 2 pitchers on the slate. That's just the way it is. He's only his 3rd start back, I think, from was he injured or whatever. So I don't know what you're going to get really, but you're getting 6,300 against Miami, and it's going to show up as certainly the top point per dollar play on the slate. And I got him on 25%. Seems reasonable enough, I guess. So I like that. Garrett, I don't have him projected all that well, but I just know he's got upside. And I know the Mets can deliver upside to pitchers sometimes. So even though he's not really rated that high for me, I'll be happy if I get to him. I'll just leave it at that. And as far as the hitting goes, no. No, not really anything from this game. Maybe a little Miami against Peterson if I had to.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so okay, so getting to that. So I think either of these pitchers are fine, but at high ownership, I don't think you absolutely have to do the Peterson thing. Miami does strike out, eighth most against lefties. They're one of the weaker teams power-wise against lefties in baseball. It's a good pitcher's park. It is a little bit, there's 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left field. It's 75 degrees in New York. So, hey, it's not like a terrible hitting situation. Historically, this would have been a spot where I would have argued for Garrett and for the Mets, and I'm not sure why I don't this time as well. So I'm going to put the Mets on my list, and I'm going to say that either of these pitchers is fine. Peterson makes like perfect sense in a logical case, but it's just like you said, it doesn't feel great to play the potentially the highest owned pitcher is David Peterson, regardless of the price. So although I would have worked with our boy Mikolas last night. That's the first thing I woke up to. Sheets. People were direct tweeting me, "Oh my God, look at Mikolas go off. I hope you played him tonight. I hope you played him tonight." I didn't play Mikolas last night, and it still ended up getting Mikolas.
How many did he get at the end of the day? I
think 28 or something.
Like a no-hitter, pretty much. Right?
Yeah, with like almost nothing given up. Yeah.
It was the Dakota Hudson. It was like
Right. And you know who else was really good? Our other guy called Cal Quantrill.
Oh, he did. That's right. I was watching that game. It was like 0-0 through 5. With neither pitcher striking anybody out.
Yeah, like 2 strikeouts. Yeah, exactly. All right, Pittsburgh, St. Louis.
Yeah, so you got back-to-back games in St. Louis and Yankees that represent kind of the top 2 stacks for different reasons. So St. Louis is showing up as a really, really strong value piece here. Listen, they're up against Bailey Falter. We'll get to this in a second. Sonny Gray is showing up as kind of a shitty spend up as far as I'm concerned. Like he's fine. He's probably the best of the spend. There are no really spend ups, and he's projecting 18 or so fantasy points, so he's certainly not bad. But I don't know. He's 28% owned. I don't feel like paying 10K for him, but I don't know. He certainly looks like an option in a pool of kind of okay pitching. I mean, I say shitty spend up because I don't know. He's just doesn't. I don't really think he has much of a ceiling. I don't know. That's the way I've been thinking about him. But St. Louis, they're looking like good values, but I don't know about this. Every time I see Bailey Falter pitch, he gets guys out. So I don't know if just going all bananas on St. Louis really is what you're supposed to do here. But they are showing up as kind of top value right now.
Yeah. So it used to be with the St. Louis team, even like as recently as last year. If there's a lefty on the other side, you just play them. You know where they stand this year? They are second. They have the second lowest OPS in baseball against lefties.
Oh my God.
They have been absolutely atrocious. I still think that it's tempting because you take all these guys and historically it makes sense and they're so cheap. Like historically, we know Arenado and Goldschmidt are 2 of they've been great forever against lefties.
Right.
Except for this year. I like this Herrera kid. You've got Furman, who's going to be 2K in there that makes you can do different kinds of stacks, and they're cheap. And man, I don't know what to do. And Bailey Falter, I think I made the mistake of watching him pitch a little bit in that Dodger game where it looked like he was just getting rocked, and it looked like it should have been much, much worse even. I think he's actually a more competent pitcher than most people do. I still have St. Louis on my list just because their value. I don't know if I can do the full stack thing. And I sort of agree with your take. Like if this was part of the 4-game early slate about Sonny Gray, I actually think that I would be probably playing a decent amount of Pittsburgh. But just because it's a bigger slate and there's other things to do, I think I probably don't quite go that far with it. But I don't think that Sonny Gray is some awesome must play or anything like that. It's also really good hitting weather in St. Louis. It's 88 degrees with a little wind blowing out to left. This is when the ball could be jumping a little bit. So I'm pretty much off the pitching, and I am considering both sides of the hitting on that one.
All right, so Yankees coming off of a very nice game. They now get a sort of a bullpen game. It says Altavilla starting, then Lynch, projected long relief. And then on the Yankee side, you have Poteet, who's not that bad.
Pitched well against my Dodgers, although he got
did well enough. They wanted no part of letting him finish that 5th though.
Yeah.
Only 2 hits, 3 walks. He wasn't pretty efficient with his pitches. 84 pitches through 4 2/3. Only 8 fantasy points through the 4 2/3. Only the 1 strikeout, but hey, it was good. The other 2 games he played at San Fran and at Cleveland. I mean, seems like a pretty interesting pivot off of Peterson. If you want to stay down in that price range. And yet, on the other hand, I could certainly see variations where Kansas City puts up 8. So I don't know. I'll make this kind of a marginal 2-pronger with those 2 pieces. Like I think Poteet could be used. I think Kansas City could be used. As far as the Yankees go, I mean, sure. I mean, they're gonna rate to be the top. I think the top raw points. I think.
Sure.
Yeah. And they're going to be pretty highly owned, and you can get to them because of guys like Peterson on the slate. So, yeah, good spot. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, this game, for what it's worth, it's like 90 degrees with 12-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left field. There is no way I'm playing any pitcher in this game. And I think both of these stacks are going to be chalky, and I think for good reason. I like the Yankees side better, obviously, which will be what everyone else does as well. Depending on if the ownership gets low enough, I'm going to jump on this Kansas City thing because I like this spot quite a bit. And the Poteet thing that I was saying is like when you take, he doesn't really have like I know he had a couple games where we had one game where he was like okay strikeout wise. He's really not that guy. He's not going to make you miss a bunch. And I just think putting the ball in the air when it's 90 degrees and wind blowing out, even in Kansas City, it's a pretty good spot. So that's why this game has a monster 10.5 like total. And I think this is like the natural. Okay, like I'm interested in Philly. I'm interested in the Mets. I'm interested in St. Louis. But this is a much higher priority to sort of build a lot of my teams around. They'll either be 3 or 5 man stacks of KC or New York and a good portion of my lineups.
Angels in Arizona, I was expecting to see a little better projection out of the Arizona side just because, they looked good yesterday. And, it's not like Soriano's, Sandy Koufax himself. So, I don't know. Arizona, I think, may be a little underprojected. I'm not getting to them right now, but I can see how this could improve. The Angels look pretty cheap on the other side. So actually I don't mind that. I'm not getting to any of the pitchers here. So for me, I'll probably end up boosting Arizona to some degree. I'm probably playing some Angels. So I think I like this game just like I did yesterday.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much. I hate to be on the same page on everything, but I think we're on the same page here. I like both these offenses. But and by the way, thank you to the. I was glad I played the Corbin Carroll in some of my lineups because he was like 3% owned, where the other guys were all pretty popular, and he put up 22. I like both sides. I think that the Angels are actually going to be the more popular side tonight, but I'm just as good with Arizona. So sign me up. This is it's weird how it goes, but today it seems like I'm liking like the team games. I like the Yankee game. I like this whole game, and we got one more to talk about after this. But yeah, I think that I like Arizona and LA basically equally right now. I'm just going to sort of figure that one out a little bit later, but they're definitely priorities for me. Why aren't they projecting a little bit better? It's a little weird. Okay, I'm gonna have to look a little bit more on that one. Anyway, all right, Seattle and Chicago.
Yeah, so you have Bryce Miller coming off a negative 6-point fantasy point game, who's going to be one of the chalkier pitchers on the slate. Again, I completely framed that the wrong way. But he is at home against Chicago, and this is just kind of the thing we do. He's going to project really well. I have him alongside with Peterson as kind of the other part of the chalky pairing. Have him about 40% ownership, and pretty much that's that. I don't know who the Jay Cannon is, but I'm not seeing any projection that's worth mentioning for him. As far as the hitting goes, I guess Seattle looks to be sort of in play. They don't rate to be that good on this slate for some reason, but they just kind of have to be in play, I think. And as far as the White Sox, same thing as before. You'll get leverage against Bryce Miller, and the White Sox have guys that get hit every once in a while. So I don't know. It depends on how many lineups. Depends on whether you're playing, to win the lottery or whatever it is. But As far as just overall good plays, Bryce Miller is one of the top pitchers on the slate.
Yep. I do like Bryce Miller. I'm willing to overlook whatever, but I just, it's annoying that he's going to be popular, but it is what it is. I think that Cannon is probably a reach, but maybe a pivot off of Peterson if you wanted to go. I don't know if we know how many pitches he's really going to throw. Like I'm seeing him at 91 pitches. I have no idea where that's coming from. And I said that yesterday, and the pitches dropped by 15 for the guy for Seattle. So I would say I would expect something like that also, because if Jonathan Cannon's going to throw 91 pitches against Seattle, just by automatic rule as a righty, we kind of have to play some of them. Like they strike out just way too much. I think Seattle and Bryce Miller is the natural takeaway here. I do want to say my one-offs did very well for me from the White Sox last night. And if you wanted to go there again, I had Paul DeYoung who hit a home run and a double, and Andrew Vaughn who hit a home run. I don't mind the idea of playing like a one-off from this game on the other side of Miller if I'm not using him, but nothing that's a priority.
So I got the Dodgers as you go to this last game, lower than they were yesterday. They're still always in play, but I have them below the Yankees as far as raw points, and they're going to be like half as owned as a result. So I have no problem playing them. Listen, they scored 15 last night, so that's usually nothing I like to do. But John Gray's kind of reasonable enough where I'm not expecting the Dodgers. I was about to say something stupid. I was about to say I'm not expecting the Dodgers to put up 15 runs. Of course not. But, I like the Dodgers a little bit less today than I did yesterday, but they're still in play. I'll tell you, I'm really a little bit concerned about. And again, I don't live here, so I don't know if there's any. I'm a little concerned about Walker Buehler, if you want to know the truth. And I got kind of a hankering to play Texas here.
Okay.
They don't really project all that great, but just as something different to do, I wouldn't mind them. They're not gonna show up as one of my top plays or anything. But if I get to Texas, I mean, he literally hasn't put out a game that. Well, I shouldn't say that. The game against Cincinnati was fine, but I'm a little worried that Texas can hit the ball pretty hard. So I do like the Dodgers. I do like Texas. I don't like either of the pitchers.
Yep. The Dodgers have averaged 10 runs a game over the last week. They've hit 11, and 15 or whatever, 14, 15. I'm going to play the Dodgers again. Like I don't really know what to say. It's not homerism. It is reality. This is just an unbelievable lineup with unbelievable power. So Dodgers right behind. Well, the Yankees are the one I would like the most, but the Dodgers are going to be low enough owned to where I might have to prioritize them over the Yankees just because of the ownership. I like your idea a little bit of Texas. If you told me Corey Seager was going to be playing today, I probably would have a lot more interest even in Texas. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't know if they announced that he's on the DL officially. I think he's technically – no, I think he was just missing it. I think they'll try to get him in a game at Dodger Stadium at some point, you'd think, right? They did a whole thing for him on the tribute to him yesterday on the thing. Everybody loves him in LA. Texas and LA. I mean, I guess that's sort of like my theme is my favorites are the Texas and the Dodger game, both sides of it. It's only 65 degrees in LA, not like great hitting weather for what it's worth. The Angels in Arizona I like, the Yankees in Kansas City, but I think I would like to, if I do play like the Yankees, I don't want to use one of these other teams I just mentioned as my side teams because one, they're expensive and also they're going to be chalky. If you play a full Yankee stack, I think you should be trying to maybe look for Philly or the Mets, Seattle. I just don't think those teams are going to be, well, actually Seattle might end up with some ownership, but I would just be trying to get a little bit different with your Yankee stuff. And then for pitching, I've got Sanchez. I really like the Sanchez idea, actually. I talked myself into it even more. Sanchez, Miller, Peterson, and then Lodolo as my main ones. That's sort of how I've got it ranked.
Who's gonna ruin our plans to see the World Series together? Is it Philly?
I'm not worried about. I mean, I think the Dodgers are a significantly better team, and I'm not worried about it.
No, I know that, but you know how short series work. So who's good?
Yeah, exactly. So my fear is more like a stupid team like Milwaukee. Something like
Baltimore.
What's that?
Not Baltimore for the Yankees.
Baltimore's, but they're like good. They might actually end up being better than the Yankees by the end of the year. They're really good.
Yeah, but I don't know if they got the pitching. You know what I mean? Like,
No, well, they've got the young stuff though, and then you know how it goes at the All-Star break. You get two. Like I always say, when the Red Sox beat us in 2018, all but one of their starters they got as in the middle of the season. So
yeah, that's it. And also the Yankees, their pitching's not so. Obviously, their pitching's not.
it's been awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I think Philly. Listen, when Philly, if they can run out those 3 freaking pitchers, that's like really annoying.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
All
right. Well, so we'll. You have to finish up your morning stuff, and then we can do golf.
Yeah, let's do golf at.
You know,
we could do it in 5 minutes if you want. So yeah, let's do it now. Sure.
Okay, cool. Sounds good to me. Good luck, everybody.